How long did you live here?
I started coming in 1976. And spent a few years here over the years. Oh.
Okay, Kabbalah. Page 84. Okay. Okay. So this page opens up with a quote from a verse in Psalms. Psalm 81, and it means blow the shofar on the first day of the month, the day that Bakesa means covered, when is the day that you don't see the moon, the day of our holiday. Right? That's how we know that Rosh Hashanah is the one holiday of all the holidays we have. It's the only one that actually starts on Rosh Chodesh, when the moon is covered. Right? So that's Bakesa when it's covered. Right? Wherever you want. You want to look up, you want to sit over there, sit over there. You can move that clipboard, make yourself space. Page 84. So, Tikka B'Chodesh Shofar. Though the Shofar and Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Hashanah Nikra Kan Chodesh. Rosh Hashanah is referred to here as Chodesh. Why? מפני שעיקר בראש השנה הוא ממש להתחיל מחדש. Because the whole thing about Rosh Hashanah is about renewal, right? We were learning also yesterday in the Parsha about renewal, every day to be as new. אבל לא להתחיל שוב מחדש. You have it, Yitzchak, page 84. אבל לא להתחיל שוב מחדש. New doesn't mean just starting again, right? אם אני מתחיל שוב מחדש, I'm going back to the beginning and I'm restarting, so to speak, זה כבר לא חדש, it's not new, זה כבר זקן, בשפת הימים, it's already old, elderly. But what we're talking about is אלא ממש חדש, like truly, truly new. Okay? So, I was just about to ask you where you are. Page 84. Right? When I was a kid, like, if you look at I saved a few old notebooks. The first 2 pages are nice. After the second page, the writing is already scribbled and everything and so on. So every time I started a new notebook, I wasn't really starting completely new. I was just restarting the notebook the same way that all the other was. Okay? So we're talking about doing something really new. And as everybody knows, this world is a world of entropy. Like, things are always getting old in this world, right? Is it really possible to have something completely new? So he says, Madua anachnu sofrim al pi haLevana. We're in the 6th line. Why does the Jewish calendar go by the moon? Why is it a lunar calendar? מפני שאנחנו יודעים et hasod, because we know the secret. שאור הלבנה בכל חודש זה אור חדש לגמרי. What's up there? Yeah, who's it? Hi. You need Judy? Call her phone. She's upstairs. You have her number? Yeah. Okay, call her phone. So why do we go by why is the Jewish calendar a lunar calendar? Right? Because because we know the secret we know the secret that the moonlight every month is new light. Totally new. It's not the same light as the previous month. Now, if you're going to try to understand this from a meteorological point of view, or from something like from that perspective, you're not going to get that, right? What we're saying is, when we say that when it's a new month, we're saying it's a totally new month. It's new light. It's light that's never been here before. Okay? Truth is that we believe that every moment is brand new. It just looks old. It looks old, but it's really new. So, as Bakesa B'Yom Chagenu, the phrase on the hidden day of our holiday, B'Leil Rosh Hashanah, Kishalavana Mitchadeshet, so the night of Rosh Hashanah, when the moon is being renewed, Ani Mitchadesh Yachad Ita, the idea is that I too am being renewed together with the moon. Atem Yodim, page 85, Atem Yodim, זה לא קל להתחדש. It's not easy to be new again. גם הלבנה, כשהיא מתחדשת, the moon also, when the new moon is coming, היא צועקת גוואלד, is screaming, הייתי פעם מלאה, once I was a full moon, עכשיו אני צריכה להתחיל את הכל מחדש, now I have to begin everything completely anew. ובכל זאת, but nevertheless, היא שמחה, it's happy. Why? It's happy. ברוך השם, אני מתחילה שוב להאיר. It's happy that thank God I'm once again beginning to give light. צריך ללמוד מהלבנה שיש לה הכוח להתחיל כל פעם מחדש. We have to take a lesson from the moon that it has the strength to begin everything again, to start anew. גם אני בראש השנה לא מתלונן על כל מה שעבר עליי. So too, I in Rosh Hashanah, I'm not complaining about everything that happened to me. מה שהיה, היה. What was. אני ממש מתחיל מחדש and really beginning anew. Okay? So, I'm sure that everybody realizes how important this concept is, right? The idea to be able to begin anew is like, it's such a radical difference from the way life normally is, right? Like if I ask you, like for some old memories, which is something that happened to you when you were 5, and so on. Like particularly if it was a particularly great day, or if it was, God forbid, a traumatic experience, right? We carry it with us all the time, right? And what do? We say, I am the way I am. You know why? Because in grade 1, my teacher took my crayons and broke them, or whatever, right? Or, and I was just reading this week in a book by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, former chief rabbi of the UK. he interprets the very first story in the Torah when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. So Hashem says to Adam, "Did you eat from the tree?" So what does he say? The woman that you gave me, she gave me. It's her fault, right? Which is basically saying to God, you know what? This is the woman that you gave me, and she gave me of the fruit of the tree, right? So really, it's your fault, right? The very first story of the Torah is about man trying to shirk responsibility, right? And what is the deep meaning of God creating man in His image? The deep meaning of that is that just like God has free choice, we have free choice, right? But what we tend to do all the time is we're always looking for an excuse to say, don't hold me responsible for what I did because it's my psychologist's fault, it's my psychiatrist's fault, it's my mother's fault, it's my teacher's fault, it's my sister's fault, it's my brother's fault, it's my father's fault, it's this one's fault, it's that one's fault, and so on, right? Well, as long as I'm doing that, what does it got to do with what we're reading over here? As long as I'm doing that, I am not being new. I am being old. Right? I'm not being new. I'm being old. I'm saying that this is it. My life pattern has been set. My life pattern has been set. This is the way I am because of this, because of that, because of that, because of that, because of that, because of that. Because God made me this shidduch. She made me do a transgression. She says I did it because of the snake, because of the serpent, right? We're always looking for excuses to explain ourselves. And when we see somebody who's a good person, we say, oh, they're a good person also. You know why? Because they had it good. They had a good teacher, they had a good parent, they had a good this, they had a good that. In other words, they don't have free choice, and I don't have free choice, and nobody has free choice, right? So if you really believe in free choice, it means to say that you believe that you can start completely new. Right? Now, go ahead.
So I understand that at one level, but are there things that, like some would say that there are things that you can't necessarily change,
True.
Like a character.
True. So free choice, the Talmud says, when it comes to free choice, basically the Talmud says that it's free choice to be tzaddik or rasha, to be righteous or to be wicked.
Okay. So that's your action.
That's right. In other words, right now you can do the right thing or you can do the wrong thing. Right? How rich you are, how tall you are, your complexion, so basically all those, how strong you are physically, how weak you are, those things are predetermined. You can go to you can go and work out in the gymnasium for 55 years, but if you don't have the ability to be an Olympic performer, you're never going to be an Olympic performer. Right?
I have a friend who works out every day for a number of years, but he can't develop muscles.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then I say, Rabbi Yonah eats every day stuff that if I would eat it every day, I'd be fat like a horse, and he's skinny no matter how much of that stuff he eats. Right?
So what we can change. This is an important point. So we have the ability to change. I mean, our actions we can change.
We can change the way we think. Okay, we can change the way we think. We can change. We can take responsibility for what we do. And the whole thing about, what the Christians say that man is born in sin and has no salvation other than that Jew hanging on the cross. Okay, and That's sort of serious.
Yeah.
Okay? And you know, you know, anyway, I don't want to get off topic, but and what the Torah is saying is, you are responsible. Okay? And in order to live with responsibility, that means you really got to believe that you could be new. You could be like a new person. You're not chained to the past. But new in what sense? In the sense where, in what particular area? And that's which we have free choice. What do we have free choice in? We have free choice to be tzaddik or rasha, right? To be righteous or not righteous. Okay. And what Shlomo is doing about relating it to the new moon, what is basically is in other words, there's content and there's context. Okay, so can you close the windows?
Yes.
They're running inside here. It's noisy. Okay. So what he's saying over here is like this: when the time of the month that the holiday is beginning, in other words, the context is also important. In other words, the context itself is also teaching you a lesson, right? Context is always important. The same piece of food that you're eating and enjoying, if you put it on your shirt, it's no longer food, it's dirt, right? And your mouth is food, on your shirt is a stain. The food is the same food, but the context gives it a definition, different definition, right? So context is always important. If a holiday is like Pesach, this is the time of full moon, you have to understand what is the message of this holiday being celebrated, particularly on the full moon. If Rosh Hashanah is beginning on Bakesed, the Yom Chagenu, beginning at the beginning of the month, when the moon is not really visible, right? So what's the message of that? So Shlomo is saying, we count by the moon because we know the secret that every month is a totally new month, and the message of Rosh Hashanah being on Rosh Chodesh, the message is, be ready to be new.
What would be the meaning of lunar eclipse? Like full moon lunar eclipse, like it's coming in Sukkot this year.
All that I can tell you is that I know that there is meaning to it, but what it is, I don't know. But I know that according to Kabbalah, there's a whole bunch of teachings about what an eclipse is, etc. But I don't know what it's about.
According to what we learn, like,
I understand that, but I understand your question. I didn't think about it yet, so I don't want to just talk.
I would think just energetically that the eclipse is more about something hidden than something new.
Yeah.
It's just the way it feels to me.
Okay. You see, these are good thoughts. I'm just not saying anything because I sort of try to live by the rule that when I'm teaching, if there's something I don't know, I prefer to say I don't know.
it would be good to study it.
Yeah, it's good. Well, so I'm sure that there's going to be people who are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we go on. Yeah. Bakeseh liyom chagenu, the middle of page 85. So literally that means on the day that the moon is still not visible, right? Yesh midrash kol kach yafeh. There's a very beautiful midrash. Midrash אומר שהקדוש ברוך הוא דן אותנו על כל הטעויות שלנו על פי שני עדים, החמה והלבנה. According to the Torah, you need two witnesses to establish a fact, right? So the Medrash says, who are the two witnesses that God uses when we do something? So the two witnesses are the sun and the moon. Rosh Hashanah, mipnei shehalvana ohevet et am Yisrael, so Rosh Hashanah, because the moon loves the Jewish people, what does it do? He lo muchana leha'id alav l'rega, l'ra'a. So the moon is not willing to testify negatively against the Jews. Lachen hi mitchasa. So therefore it covers, it hides itself, kedei shelo yiyu shnei edim, so that there shouldn't be two witnesses around. V'keser liyom chageinu. So he brings in this teaching. What does that have to do with the previous one? There's a relationship. We'll see that soon. Okay. So, okay. Actually, the relationship is pretty clear, and so Ephraim Mordechai. You see a buddy of yours, right? And you see like the guy's become about tshuva, right? What are you thinking? Oh, but I know what he did last year. But I know what he did last week, right? And look at him now, he's being so holy. She's being so holy. But I know what they did, right? I'm not saying you. Okay? Right, but that's what people do, right?
We judge.
We judge. So so here's a person who's trying to be new, right? And other people around are saying, haha, sure. I'll believe it when I see it. I know what you're like. I know what, I remember when you locked the teacher in the closet, and so on, right? I know what you've done. So these people are saying, you're changing? You're going to be you? No way. I know what you're like, right? So what Shlomo is saying over here about the moon is saying, I'm not saying anything negative about you from your past. Right? In other words, that's another message from the moon. In other words, that even the context is a context which allows you to have maximum free choice. In other words, you're not in a context, and let's elaborate that a little bit more. The Rambam says, how do you know if you're tshuva? If you get cold, tell me. If you get cold, I'll shut it up. Yeah, I'm just telling you that. But there's also a shawl there right there, see? It's a Haredi color. I don't know if that appeals to you or doesn't appeal to you, but okay. So, how do I know if I did tshuva or not? Okay, so here I was living in a certain town, and I was a member of this motorcycle gang, right? And we used to go and do all kinds of things. And I decided I'm becoming about tshuva, and I'm leaving my past. I'm going now to live in a city of good people, etc., etc. And now I behave myself really, really well. Good. How do I know if my tshuva was like a real deep tshuva or not? So the Rambam says, if it happens to be, in other words, I don't have to go looking for this, but if it happens to be that I find myself in a similar situation to the situation in which I used to transgress, and now I'm not transgressing, right? Then I know that my tshuva was real. Okay? In other words, if let's say, for example, as long as I have $10 in my pocket, I don't shoplift. If I have less than $10 in my pocket, right? I take things. So and then I do tshuva. Well, How do I know that I stopped stealing? When I have $10 in my pocket, or when I don't have $10 in my pocket. When I don't have $10 in my pocket and I still don't steal, then my tshuva is real, right? Okay. Now, but the fact is that in part of the tshuva process, there are times that you actually have to leave the context that you've been living in and change your environment. Because if you're going to stay in the same environment, you're going to end up doing the same things. Okay? So what Reb Shlomo is saying now is that Rosh Hashanah, the real, in other words, the context, God made this holiday and Rosh Hashanah on the day that everything is new. It's giving you a context of newness. It's giving you a context of newness. And the moon is, which normally is a witness testifying against what the person did, the moon is saying, even though I know what you've done, I'm not here to testify against you. I'm not putting you back in the old context. Right? Shlomo used to say that one of the reasons that he thought that so many marriages break up in divorce is he used to say because right at the chuppah there are people at the wedding who are saying, "Ha, let's see how long this is going to last." Okay? I was at a bris today and the baby was like really, really crying. And then I've been at circumcisions where the baby hardly cries. So there are different factors involved. But one of them is, and I've seen this, one of them is, what's the attitude of the people who are standing around at the bris? If you have people standing around saying, oy vey, this is going to hurt, and this is going to hurt, and so on and so on, like, poor baby, you can bet your dollars this baby is going to scream. And if the people standing around at the bris are standing around, yeah, it's going to hurt a little bit, nicht gefährlich, but there's something very special and very joyous taking place over here. I've been at circumcisions where the baby hardly cries. You understand? So it's like what do you call it? Sometimes you're sitting around at a table and there are people there that they didn't even say anything to you. You just feel really good around them. They've got a certain aura, a certain vibe. You just feel good. And then there's also people that like, gee, I don't want to sit over here. They're giving off such bad energy, right? So
and that can be changed. That energy can be changed.
Definitely.
That form of the circle.
Definitely. Okay. So the point of this medrash is that Hashem is seeing to it that the negativity of the past is not really present. If there's still negativity from the past, it's because you're bringing it in. Okay? 4 lines from the bottom. There's another meaning to this phrase. בראש השנה הקדוש ברוך הוא דן את האור המכוסה שבנשמתנו, זה שנסתר מאיתנו לגמרי. That God is looking deep into the light that is concealed within our souls, that which is normally completely hidden from us. את אור הלבנה לפעמים רואים ולפעמים לא רואים. The light of the moon, sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. חלק ממנו נראה וחלק בלתי נראה. Some of it is visible, some of it is not. כך גם אור הנשמה, so too with the light of the soul. אנחנו חשים רק חלק ממנו. We only sense a little bit of it. החלק הגדול, the larger part, הצד העליון של הנשמה, the higher level of the soul, נסתר מאיתנו לגמרי, is completely hidden from us. V'chol shana, we're on page 86, second line. V'chol shana, every year, im zochim, if we merit, hu mitgale yoter, more of our souls get revealed. Rosh Hashanah, כשאור הלבנה מכוסה לגמרי, בכסה, Rosh Hashanah, when the light of the moon is completely hidden, זה אומר שדנים את הצד העליון הזה של הנשמה, the higher level of the soul is being judged, in other words, the aspect of the soul that is not visible, את אותו החלק שעדיין לא התגלה בעתיד להתגלות. That part which is not yet revealed and will be revealed. את האור הזה דנים לפני שהוא מופיע. So now he's beginning to answer the obvious question. What are you judging this hidden part of the soul? What is it being judged on? Right? So this light is already being judged before it even manifests. מפני שבראש השנה נולד האור הזה הטמון עמוק עמוק בליבנו. Because this light, which is deep, deep within us, is being born on Rosh Hashanah. Okay? In other words, there's a judgment as to how much of this light is going to be manifesting in your life this year. So, whose decision is that? Yours or God's? Whose decision is that? What do you mean there's a judgment over here? Isn't it you yourself that decide how much of the light of your soul is going to be manifest? And the obvious answer is?
Yes.
Yes, what?
I'm responsible for...
I'm responsible. Yeah. So what does it mean that God is judging that God is judging the hidden light of your soul? And what's the judgment? So, yes, you're responsible, and yes, God is judging how much of it is going to manifest. In other words, that's why we pray on Rosh Hashanah both for physical sustenance, parnassa, and well-being, and we also pray for spiritual sustenance and well-being. And depending on how much you're yearning for it, accordingly is the judgment. Understand? If you're davening, you're saying, Hashem, like, I really want to learn Torah this year. I really want to become a better person. I really want to do a lot of mitzvahs and so on. So then, I really want the light of my soul to manifest. Okay? So according to your yearning, the judgment is given that you will have the potential to do this and this year. If you don't pray for it, if you don't yearn for it, you're not going to have it.
But how am I not responsible for how much of
you still are responsible, and that's part of your responsibility. Is the yearning for it itself is part of the responsibility. Okay, but again, it's emphasizing your responsibility. You understand? It's not like, whatever will happen, it'll happen. If it happens to be that I'll meet a nice rabbi, and they'll turn me on, so then I'll do something about it. It could happen that way, but what's being said is that, even if you're going to meet somebody that's going to turn you on, it's also part of that will be orchestrated because that's what you're looking for. Right? There's a phrase in the Talmud that says, Haba l'taher, one who wants to come and purify himself, Misayin oto. He is helped from heaven. Haba l'tamei, somebody who wants to become tamei, wants to defile himself, chas v'shalom, Fatchin men tet sharei tumah. All the gates of impurity are open for him. Okay? It's like with everything else. Without heavenly help, we can't do anything. Question is, what do you want? What kind of help do you want? Right?
And then
Are you
some-
praying that on your way home that you should not be tested by the tests of life, or are you praying that, or are you saying, I want to see all kinds of things?
It's so true in like
Huh?
daily life throughout the year.
It's what?
It's true in daily life throughout the year that if you set an intention first, you receive what you want or what you need.
Right.
Like
Right.
if you're working so hard for a new job or for a big change in your life, like you can't force it, you can't orchestrate it, but just like
But
resetting yourself
Right.
and taking on the responsibility of being receptive first and being in the right, like having the right energy first. Things tend to flow,
Yeah.
in general.
We learned yesterday, I don't know if I got to tell you this, right? So this week's parsha, the first mitzvah is the mitzvah of bringing the first fruits to the sanctuary, and so the first fruits are always special, right? And when we wake up in the morning, so our bodies are getting active again, right? And we know that we have to live in this mundane world. So do I want to live in this mundane world and be wrapped in the banality and the physicality of the world that I'm living in, or do I want to live in this world knowing that I have to be involved in the daily reality of this world, but I want to be able to do it in a way that is going to be connected with heaven, connected with Hashem. So again, like what you were saying, this depends on how I start my day. Right? If I begin the day with the intention to live a life of being connected, so then that's like the first fruits. That's why we have to daven right in the morning, and the mincha begins half an hour after high noon. Again, it's like the beginning of a new part of the day, and then there's Marav, the evening service, is the beginning of the night. Now, that's why the real Jew, like according to Shulchan Aruch, the best way to practice prayer is that it's like there's a shul across the street over here. Every day of the year they begin exactly, and they start chakras and they daven nates, sunrise davening every single day of the year, regardless whether sunrising is at 5 in the morning or whether it's at 6:30 in the morning. They're always in schedule with that. And then in the yeshiva next door, they don't have a minyan at this time of day. You'll see that there's a sign that says mincha is at 1:15. Right? It was as soon as you can daven mincha, start the afternoon with prayer. As soon as you can say the Shema of the evening, start with Ma'ariv. Right? In other words, so that's sort of like the first fruit of each portion of the day.
Right, isn't there teaching that the first thing that you say in the morning really sets your intention for the day? And then say Modani.
That's why we start with Modani, right? If hopefully we do it consciously, right? With focused attention. So, אתם יודעים, גם על פי המדע, even according to science, מה שהאדם יודע על יכולתו, what a person knows about his capabilities, מה שהאדם מנצל מתוך הפוטנציאל שלו, and the amount of the percentage of that capability which the person actually actualizes, זה אולי 5% ממה שיש בו, is maybe 5% of your potential that actually gets actualized. That's what everybody was talking about in the 70s and the 80s, right? Like, only using a certain amount of your brain.
Less than 12%.
Less than 12%. Wow, it's been increased. It's been increased. They used to say that was less.
Yeah, they used to say 1%.
1%.
My group
2%.
was only 1%.
So like
You're plus the
Albert
12%.
Einstein was like using 12%, like the genius of our generation used it until 12% something. So we are between 5 and 10.
Good day.
I wonder how they know that he used 12%, that he used this percent. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, he figured it out because he was up to
He told them, yeah.
them.
It's like, Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin asks his father, they're going across the bridge, and it says, weight limit 10 tons. Says his father, how do they know that it's 10 tons? So he says, they build the bridge and they keep on putting heavier trucks on it. When the bridge breaks, and they see it was a 10-ton truck, they know there is a 10-ton limit, and they rebuild the bridge. It's like, like Einstein says, I know that I used 12% of my brain, maybe, But in any case, there's no question. It's like, I'll give you an example. We know from people who've tried to commit suicide, and they jump off a bridge. What do they report? That their whole life passed in front of their eyes in a matter of those few seconds that they were. You've heard about that, yeah? In those few seconds from that seconds, 2-3 seconds, right? And they say they saw everything in their life in that little bit of time, right? So it's amazing. The brain has this amazing capacity. And in general, people have tremendous capacity. It's a documented story that this elderly woman was walking with her adult son. He got hit by a car, he got pinned under the car, and she went and she lifted the front of the car. And it's documented in the New England Journal of Medicine. How did she possibly do that? Well, she went beyond the filter of her brain. Right? So the idea is that the way we see ourselves from our past filters and blocks our potential for the future. The more we believe in the potential of the future, the more we can actually achieve. Okay? So again, that second last paragraph, it's Gamal Pi Hamada, even according to science, Masha Adam Yedei Al Yecholto, what a person knows about his capability, Masha Adam Menatzel Mitoch Potential Shelo, and the amount of that potential that is actually actualized, people are actually actualizing maybe 5% of their capability. It's an expression. Kutsushal Yud is like the tip of the Yud. Most people haven't even touched the tip of the Yud of Shelan Shema Shelahem, of their soul's potential. Rosh Hashanah Balayla Mitoch HaChoshev VaKisui. So on the night of Rosh Hashanah, within the darkness, within the concealment, Matzchid Lahayir O Gadol VaAsum, this new and very powerful light begins to illuminate. And it keeps on illuminating till the morning, until you hear the sound of the shofar. Okay. Any questions? No?
Well, the other thing,
Yeah.
so we're taught that, so Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment, so that would appear to mean that as much as we yearn is what we get, but it's what we get to. It's not a set judgment, so that if we increase our yearning over time,
Right.
we are
Right.
still able to
Right.
receive more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's also like a little paradoxical, like the day of judgment, according to this text, is the day to free yourself from self-judgment. Like you're actually like
to free yourself from
Like, if you
the
want to
shackles of your
Kadesh,
past.
like,
Right, exactly.
you actually have to really move beyond self-judgment
Right.
and creating this chain of events.
And that's what tshuva is.
So it's a day of judgment, but not judgment.
It's a day of great potential.
Yeah.
So if we take the teaching with the moon, what will be the difference between Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah? Because in Rosh Chodesh also we will have the same power of Chodesh.
Well, that's right. That's and in fact, if you go to the Kotel on every Erev Rosh Chodesh, you'll see that a lot of people from the Haredi community, they have a practice called Yom Kippur Katan, and it's in the Siddur. It's basically a whole bunch of slichot. So to do tshuva on whatever went wrong this past month, so that now as soon as the Chodesh comes in, you can start new again.
I once heard a teaching that in davening, there's a place for arrogance. That when you're talking to God and you're asking Hashem for things, you're able to ask Him as if you know He's going to give it to you or has the ability to give it to you. Not just, oh, could you please do this for me, God, even though I'm worthless? You to say, Hashem, please give me this, or whatever, please help me with this, I really need the strength from this, and you can't help me, I just need you to do it. So where does, how I guess when you're davening Hashem for your potential for the next year, where would you say the line is drawn between, because I know a lot of prayers are, Hashem, you're our king, I'm this worthless, not worthless, but I'm just this little puny person on the world. So how would you say your mind should be in terms of the prayer?
You have to have holy chutzpah all the time. You have to have holy chutzpah. You have to be able to say, despite the fact that I've messed it up in the past, I'm starting new. It's chutzpah. It's chutzpah. But that's what we're like. We have a lot of chutzpah. It's one of the things that everybody knows. Jews have chutzpah, right? And the question is, in what way are we using the chutzpah? Am I using it for holy purposes, or am I using it in the wrong way? But chutzpah is a very important ingredient in Jewish life.
It has to be in balance, so it's like teaching us that in one pocket you have the world was created for me, and the other pocket is I'm just
dust and ashes. Dust and ashes.
Well, one way to look at chutzpah is really just contemplation of the possibilities, not being bound by.
But to actually say, I see there's tremendous possibilities, and I'm going to go ahead and do it, despite the fact for the last 97 years I haven't been this way. It's a chutzpah to say, I'm going to do it.
Never give up.
Never give up. And the world has trouble with us because we have so much chutzpah. So it's hard for a Jew to stand in line. You noticed?
When I was in America, I went to get a passport.
You noticed? You ever tried to get on a bus? You noticed?
What's harder than getting on a bus is getting off a bus.
You could be the first one, you could be waiting for the bus before anybody else, and you could end up being the last one to get on. Right?
It's something about buses that is the worst. It's worse than almost anything. Literally. So I had this whole thing about fairness, so like driving. So I was up north, and there was a line to make a left turn, and I was worried that no one would wait in line to turn, and it's a trigger from my days in New York, where people would always cut in right before you.
Right.
But here, they waited in line patiently. I was amazed. They literally
at the end they wait on the line, but all the ways they don't try.
They were like, I was amazed. People got in line and they stayed in line.
We mean in driving because one thing that they finally figured out, and it's not true in every part of the country, but they finally figured out that you'll get home faster with everybody following the rules than otherwise. They finally figured that out.
The buses driving here, I can't go on buses because
I think you should go take a drive course and being a bus driver.
I'm a bus driver. But it's interesting. The post
My
office.
friend JJ was telling me that where he lives over here after Hebron, so the way to get to his house by vehicle is like you got to go in a block before and do a whole sivuv. And during the war this past summer, a big army carrier drove into that road, and there's a point in which at which it was too big to make the turn, and they had to basically back down to Rehov Derech Hebron a long way. And he says these were 19-year-old kids driving this humongous vehicle, and they got out, and there was like 1 inch on each side, and they were very friendly with everybody. They got out, they backed up all the way, they did it. And he was on a bus in New York, in Riverdale, and the bus took a wrong turn and went onto a street, and there was much more room to get out. The bus driver said to everybody, "Sorry, get up. You have to get another bus. I can't do it."
It's very interesting in the post office. So they try, they give numbers.
Yeah.
So there is some people follow that, and then other people just go up to a window and they don't make it there. But they're trying to create some order.
Yeah. Now you can take a number and they'll send you a text message. Like you can go shopping in the meantime and they'll send you a text message that your number's coming up.
Oh.
Yeah.
But people still sometimes don't.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I was renewing my passport in America, and about 5 or 6 of us came to pick up our passports at the same time. So they all told us to sit down, we'll call you when we're ready. So they made announcements and all our last names. So I, just being that I was here the past year, I just started up and go right to the window, and then everyone starts lining up. And I was like, oh, why are they lining up? I forgot that people line up. It was very funny. And I felt weird standing in line.
Okay, so Shabbat Shalom. Have a good Shabbos, and I'm going to make a request for next week, if you guys are willing to do this. I was thinking that it would be a nice thing to post on either on the weekly Parsha thing, like at the end of each lesson. I will give you all like a little 3x5 card, and you just write down one sentence of something that we learned. Then we can sort of like have and put them all together on the website or on the mailing. But here are some things we learned this week. Would be so if you're willing to do that.
On a daily basis or on a weekly?
Yeah, on a daily basis or even on a weekly basis. It's up to you. You understand?
And then you'll choose which ones you want to know.
Remind me next week. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.